Hey, we're live a little bit earlier than planned, but we've managed to get things sorted out for you. And we do have an update because obviously, while we had those technical issues earlier on, Rival and Retribution were still playing at the time, and that game did conclude.
And Rival did come out on top over Retribution in the first game. We're going to break down that game a little bit and kind of explain the flow of it. So we did see a surprise come up from Rival in the picks and bans. For those of you who did not recall, it was an Erlong Shin in the jungle and that Isis in the mid. And we saw right before we cut off Erlong Shin setting up that gank in the dual lane at only 1:30.
And they actually got the first blood from that early on, and it went over to the Anhur in the lane, which gave them a nice little bit of domination there. From there, though, they controlled the game very, very well. Rival, they got the first goal Fury relatively free.
5:30.
But then we saw an invade coming out from the Retribution, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, the whole idea was that there was a 2K lead on Rival after that first Gold Fury and just first blood, just having that, aggressive team comp. And then Retribution tries to answer back with that 7-minute invade on speed buff. Really good job by Rival specifically, though, resetting themselves. And it actually ended up a 3-for-0 and the speed buff in their favor. From there, it was just a snowball fest for Rival.
On top of that, Gnome, the Sun Wukong, got a triple kill in that, and that was a big difference maker there. They got Gold Furies, and then after that, they got an uncontested Fire Giant, took down towers, sieged back up one more time, got the second Fire Giant, and won the last team fight, and that's how they won it out. Big
thing here in Game 2 picks and bans is going to be this Erlong Shin and Isis pick, because those were really what ran it for Rival for the most part. Elexum, I actually got to kind of sit behind them and watch that game while it was being played again. Apologies for not being able to broadcast that one to you guys, but Elexum was actually the primary voice for Rival, kind of telling everyone what to do, and also the calming presence, like, don't get over anxious, guys. We have a 17k goldie near the end. Let's just play it safe. I want you to target out him. I want you to target out him. I'm going to be safe. Play around Proxy's Odin cage. He was a very calming voice in their in their communication.
Even though we had those technical issues, it was very nice for us to be able to actually sit behind the players and listen to their comms going through here. And there's Proxy on your screen now. Now, we were talking during game 1 about his hand and how it may be an issue for him with his thumb. I was watching him, and his thumb seems very dexterous all of a sudden.
So he's faking it, is what you're saying?
I'm not sure. It looks okay. It didn't look too bad.
Well, we're into game...
It didn't work out well for him game 1, though, but still.
We're into game 2 here. Rival, they're actually going to be switching over. They were Chaos last game, now on the Order side. Still banning away that Freya, though. I mean, that's just a straight-up target ban at this point.
Clearly, I mean, it's just something they don't want to deal with, the hyper carry that can come out from that. It's going to be Jeron if it's going to be anyone that's picking this up for the Hunter role. They don't want to have to deal with that. Let's have him on Jubalonke, where he's early games even weaker to an extent.
And I like what Retribution has done here. They obviously have to ban out the Alquag. Even though this is something Proxy prefers, they can't let it slip through and go over to Rapio, who we know is the hardest carry in Europe.
But Fafnir gets through again, and this time Rival going to lock that in for themselves. It was a very tanky composition from both teams in game 1 here. So going into game 2, do we expect to see the same? Well, maybe not, but those two picks.
No, I don't think we're gonna see the same right now. Zeus highlighted, Nemesis as well, likely to go over to prOxyQQ. And Zeus, for Elexum, this is actually, I believe it was his most played god. He played it a lot during the beginning parts of the split, and then it just started getting banned away from him almost every single game. This is something he's very comfortable with, and Proxy and Elexum set up for a lot of 2v2 fights.
I'll actually look at this and see that Nemesis getting locked in for prOxyQQ. We were mentioning his hand being an issue. Odin kind of fit the bill for that sort of problem that he had, but clearly not. I mean, Nemesis is a little bit more skill orientated.
It is, but I think it's a little bit. It's not like an Alquang where you have to have this crazy mechanical skill. It's still ultimate someone, steal their protections, and then your whole team piles in. I love what Rival has done, though. They've actually kind of taken away what Retribution did last time and picked it up for themselves. We see the Odin locked in with the Isis. Nim, Zeus have no way to escape that.
Little bit surprised by the Bacchus pick up there. They could have potentially looked for Sobek, but I think they were worried about the Odin cage here. But Sobek makes that trinity of those three in the mid lane very strong. Pluck into Nemesis, into Zeus damage. Was available, but I think the Odin just dissuaded them from picking the Sobek.
You can't do the Sobek at that point. You can't have all 3 of your core having the ability to be locked in. Second ban's already completed right now. Rival targeting out the solo laners, which tells me that this Odin is going solo lane more than likely if they're taking out the Robin and Sun Wukong.
Guan Yu's still available right now. And I think Rival could look at taking that for themselves here. Why not?
I mean, if they want to run Odin jungle, and this is basically, I mean, they would basically be repeating the composition Retribution ran, which I don't necessarily know if they want to do. They have a little bit of a different play style.
It's true. They're hovering over Apollo right now for them instead of the Jubalonke that we saw Retribution looking at doing earlier on today here. I wouldn't mind going with the Guan Yu. I mean, why not? It's safe enough in lane. You run the Odin in the jungle, but no, it's going to be The baits are really coming out here. They've got Odin and Awlixi in the same composition. This is nice.
And we kind of talked about this during the Epsilon Invitational, I believe, or something. Me and Tom pretty heavily, where you pick the Odin Awlixi, and it's like, well, you want to get guys with jump to get out of the Odin ring. And then that's what Retribution has kind of been baited into picking. It was a really just intellectual picks and bans here for Rival.
It's basically like, do you want to sit in the playpen with us, or do you want to get flown through the air into possibly a worse situation?
Good here. This is actually good from Retribution, though. They're going to get a jump, but it's CC immune, so they don't have to worry too much about the Awlixi. And also Retribution, this time saving Watson for that counter pick. We talked about Retribution. Watson is that star in the soul lane in all of the European SCL, and giving him that option to dictate what his matchup's going to be is very important.
Now, game one, you didn't get to see it, obviously, but Gnome got a triple kill on the Sun Wukong when they invaded Retribution there. And Watson just ended up getting bullied out on the Guan Yu consistently. He couldn't get the impact he was looking for with the sustain.
I know you listen to the comms as well. Retribution really were kind of not worried about being down that 2,000 to 5,000 early game. They were really focused on that mid-game power spike from the Guan Yu once his heals came online. The issue was Rival just never took their foot off the gas. It was constant invades, it was constant pressure, and just the slow snowball into the eventual win.
Well, into
Rival.
game we go, and let's see what everyone's picked up at the beginning of this one. We're going to teleport online for Bellona. A couple of wards placed down nice and early here for Rival on the left and right hand side of your UI at the moment. No rafts so far, but just keep an eye on those supports.
Double shell.
Okay.
Double shell. And that's, supports don't like to get their relic first off before they place wards, because they kind of want to see what the other support's going. Yeah. They also don't want to show their hand. They're like, oh, they've picked up a Wrath. You know, if Fafnir walks out with the Wrath, if Zenborne does, all's going to be like, well, I got to get Wrath too. And you have that kind of sneaking option where it's like, you come into lane, you're like, oh, they have a Wrath. Well, they're clearly going for early gold Furies.
But what this also does is like shows that they're going to be committed to actually winning a team fight before attempting the gold Fury here, because no Wrath secures. It's an Icy Assault, which is fantastic, but there's also Zeus, Bacchus, and Hou-Yi on the enemy team here. This is very dangerous around the gold Fury if one of them tries to do it without a Wrath.
Retribution, based on their composition, is looking for mid-game. They have one of the better mid-game comps I think you can draft. Bellona provides a lot from the soul lane once those rotations start to be, impactful. Once you get out of the early game, just that mass amount of protections, as well as the triple circles. Zeus, Bacchus, and Hou-Yi. Just the triple circles, you can't walk into them.
But you mentioned circles, and there's Odin across Odin,
Isis,
Fafnir, Isis, and then Awlixi will pull you if you carry on. But once again, Rival doing the same strategy as first game. They do blue into speed to get Rapio towards mid quicker.
This is a strategy you use to make sure your mid jungle gets a lead, and that's happened. You can see Atonement and Rapio going to combine, and Rapio also shares some of that wave, which while it slows down Atonement's level 5, it speeds his up.
Now the one thing I mentioned is, well, hang on a second, that's a very big stun onto Orin. Orin's in a lot of trouble here. Luckily he's got a few minions in the way to help him out, otherwise that could have spelled disaster, but luckily enough he used Shell as well.
I don't think, can we highlight Headhunter? I don't think he's leveled his dash. I think he went for the Mez there. But we'll take a check at that later. Yeah. Oh, no, he did go for the dash. So I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go aggressive there. Maybe he had already burned it.
Maybe just the minions and the respect for Jeron here. You just got to keep an eye on that. One thing to mention, though, Zeus in the mid lane here, Adonis. We've not seen Zeus in a little while, and a lot of people seem to have decided not to favor him anymore because of power pot changes.
Well, we could see a little bit of aggression here. Purification already forced onto the Zeus.
And they're fighting, actually, and Elexum's in a bit of trouble. Gets a good detonate off, but it's not enough damage at the moment. One hit's enough, but the rotation is going to make sure Atonement's going to pay for it.
It's worth. Watson gets a kill, which does hurt the Odin a little bit, but he got that first blood, and they traded out both mid laners, more importantly, which means still Atonement's gonna have this pressure once they both make it back into lane. Rapio's still level 4 as well.
Very, very interesting situation to see that in the jungle as well. It was Rival that went aggressive in the jungle and tried to catch Retribution on the rotation to their own one.
Well, no, it was the opposite. So Rival were invading those back harpies, which I don't think they were able to get, and then Retribution felt like they could fight, specifically with the Zeus in the chain lightning in that very small corridor. It's easy to stack up. The issue was that the Zeus was only level 3 at the time, so his detonate wasn't strong enough to have that instant burst potential. Once Zeus has that rank 2 or 3, Isis and Awlixi really can't fight that. They cannot group up because they will just get instantly bursted. That was the only early game chance I think they had, and they came out on top.
Well, just keep it on the mid lane here of Rival versus Retribution, because the jungle and mid combo, very, very important here. It's relatively even right now. As you can see, duo side for Rival Rival definitely going in their favor for the time being, just because they've got the better wave clear with the Apollo and the Fafnir to begin.
Looking at the solo lane, though, this helped Watson so much because he also secured the kill. Obviously, Bellona's already going to have the advantage. Odin's laning phase kind of struggles unless he can gain control of the wave somehow, which against good solo laners doesn't happen too often. Watson already has a 300 gold lead, and he's going to be able to continue this pressure out. And it looks like that's Retribution's plan.
They're really trying to force him, because if he does go for the bird bomb here, he's got to be very careful. If he uses both his abilities, he's got no escape other than the ring to walk through, and they may look for it. Instead, Proxy's just going to come to lane. Clearly, Watson kind of telegraphed that a little bit on the gank.
Yeah, Watson normally is very pressed up, and he kind of stepped back a little bit, and that's what you see from high-level players, especially players that play against each other often.
Big group up in the jungle here for Rival, looking for the rotation, getting a Spirit Ball on 2 targets. They're looking at Zeus, but Intoxicate comes out, as well as the Zeus ultimate. Rapio has to leave the danger field, but the rotation from the duo lane is on point.
Also has already jumped, so Rapio's going to be able to chase him down. There's the Feather Step. Kill is secured. Proxy makes it to mid, but it's already too late. And such a beautiful bait. To start that off, Isis fires the Spirit Ball, which in turn, you actually saw the Zeus 180 because he wants to run away, and that lined up the Suku charge. Now, it doesn't hit, but you saw the idea there.
Yeah.
By then, Zeus was just too low, taking that Spirit Ball at full force, and the rotation from Headhunter, you know who that reminded me of? Emilito.
It was very similar.
That's an Emilito play.
That looks a lot like Panthera overall, because the dual lane completely rotated. They were at the Gold Fury pit trying to force the rotation to see if they're doing Gold Fury early because they've got an Isis. And in the end, it was a beautiful bait to pick up 2 kills in the mid lane.
That's what a lot of people have forgotten about with Apollo. His change to his ultimate, so it's burning less mana in the early game. 3 months ago, if you tried to do that before he got buffed, he would be out of mana before he even made it to mid lane. Now he can crash down and assist in the fight.
Well, it's a very similar situation right now as Game 1, where Retribution get off to a stumbling start, I want to say, and Rival take the lead, but they're invading the blue buff here, and Gnome's going to drop the ultimate down.
Look at the rotation.
Here, going to get ulted, walk out the circle, and now rotation is here.
Fafnir going to go up into his ultimate, but the time wasted means Proxy and Watson are already going to be able to back off. Blue buff will be secured.
A little bit too early in the ring, I think, but at the same time, if he doesn't go in, they're just going to take the blue for free. So in the end, they managed to defend it for now. However, Zenborne still tanking up, and Proxy's like, thank you very much, sir.
That's brutal.
Me and my buddy will steal it away. Or
that
did they?
Is absolutely brutal.
I actually think he saved it.
No, I think, yeah, Zenborne saved it. It's lit up.
That's amazing.
I don't know how he got that.
He leapt. He used underhanded tactics. It
At
was
the
very
last
underhanded.
second. I mean, that was very close, but Gnome's going to be very happy with that.
Thanks, buddy.
He's still behind in lane, though, about that 400 gold, but this is manageable at 5 minutes. He just can't let it get to that 6, 7, 8, or even 1,000 lead.
Hey, he might be behind 400 gold, but the team as a whole is not right now. They've got about a 1,300 gold lead at 5 minutes in with a goal for you still standing. Rapio looking for the gank on Jeron.
Can't jump.
Does not want to jump. Forced to purify, but the knockup's down. The Feather Step, beautiful damage, and there's the knockup that we were looking for. Rapio confirms the kill with very nicely used mechanics.
And I love what Fafnir does too. He knows he can't assist in the fight, so he actually just zones off the Bacchus and Zeus rotation. That kill actually took a long time to set up, maybe enough time for the Zeus to come and make a return kill, but with Zenborne waiting there in the jungle, there was no way they could make the rotation over. And just overall, Rapio, I know we weren't able to show that first game, but this guy is so good right now.
I think the whole team of Rival here have just stepped it up a little bit for LAN more than anything. The regular season, yeah, they look good, but not on this level. They've come prepared here, and they've started things off with a flying start both games.
They just seem to have, like you said, a plan, right? And they've been executing it flawlessly so far all of last game as well as the beginning of this game right now. They have the 4-1 lead, and it seems to be their main goal is early game aggression. They really like drafting into these early game compositions and running through Rapio.
If anything, this is one of the more difficult games for the teams to play because you probably scrim this team. They did scrim Retribution time and time again, and here's the debate, but this time it's a ward.
Same spot.
Rival and Retribution both know what's up. Well, at least Retribution knows what, and they realize that when nobody rotates around, there was a ward there. But the key is, when you play against these teams week in, week out, and you scrim against each other, you have to have special tactics lined up that they're not going to recognize going into the game.
You have to have those backhanded strategies that you've only thought about and not really been able to put into play. And that doesn't always work out, but it has been for Retribution.
Ganking mid lane potential as all 5 are here, and they do get Atonement for sure, but they wasted a lot of investment. Now the return damage in here, the ring is good.
The Suns are down 2. Gnome's going to fall. Jeron's found 1, and he's going to keep jumping forward. In the back line is Rapio. He can clean up 1. 2 players damage very low, but the bludgeon, it already takes out one. Proxy answers back two. Overall, a 4 for 2 in favor of Retribution.
And it was a really good gank from them overall, because Bacchus completely missed, but I don't think they expected both Jeron and Watson to be there. End of the day, both teams collapse in mid lane, works out great, and gets Retribution back in this game.
The main issue for Rival in that fight is that the Isis died first. If she's able to survive once Gnome's ultimate comes out, once the ring is down, you could pop that Isis ult, and you're going to do not only so much damage to the team, but also heal up yourself. Great job by Watson confirming that kill on the rotation.
Yeah.
And then once the cage was dropped, we saw, like you said, that Bacchus ult. We saw the Suns. And it was very hard for Rival to continue to fight, even though they had Retribution locked in.
Some people joke about it, but it's circles versus circles. And the circles won that one, at least for one of the two teams. with the Suns running down, like you said, and the Zeus ult on top, and an Intoxicate is just so much burst.
Retribution just had more circles. They had more circles. That was it.
That's the key.
Even
man.
Watson's is a circle, man.
I mean, to be fair, Apollo had circles too, but he didn't manage to use it, I don't think. Big rotation from both teams, though. 6-5. Gold lead of around 1,000 now, so it got trimmed a little bit.
Not too much. I mean,
the Gold Fury still
actually, they cut about 700 off of that.
That's
pretty significant, and that's what Retribution needs to do. The later this game goes, more towards the mid game is when they're really going to start to shine. So in the next 5 minutes, as long as they don't get any further behind, they're going to be in a really good spot for these Gold Furies.
Now, there is a bit of a problem for Rival now, because they're using the same tactic over and over again here.
Same spot.
Trying to corner camp this over and over again. It's like with those snipers that just don't move in FPS games.
You know where they are eventually,
come
though.
on, man. But you know where they are, so you avoid them or you flank them. And they've got to be very careful about that, because if they keep doing it, they're not going to fall for the same trick too many times.
I think the big thing, though, was Retribution's rotational power, because all of a sudden, it wasn't just that Isis was at her tower edge. There were 5 players there, and that was a really good shot call from Retribution. The Hoi out-rotates the Apollo, which should not happen, and then Watson, once again, look at him. He's got so much presence in the soul lane, he's forced Gnome back so much, he can just free rotate at any time.
I mean, this is Odin versus the Bellona as well, and Bellona with a 3-0-2 slash line at 9 minutes in. This is a reverse of game 1 where, you know, Rivals behind by an engaging mid, and there's a lot of burst on Rapio.
Rapio might be dead. One charge on him. I don't think the detonate's going to be enough. Elexum somehow managing to survive just barely as Fafnir goes forward by himself and he finds the kill.
Apollo crashing into the back, looking for damage, going to mez out Proxy. Good, so beautiful, and dashes away, keeping himself alive. It's just a 1-for-0 exchange.
That reminded me of the All-Star match where we saw all of the EU All-Stars try and 1v5 multiple times in a row. Happened there again.
Watson round the back, looking for the cleanup crew. Bloodshed on the mark, but not enough for the damage for the mez. Then crashing in goes Gnome just to slow down Watson. As Retribution at the moment, surprisingly enough, they're not actually looking at the gold. Instead, they're on the run.
Watson stayed a little bit too long, forced the ult outside of the cage. That's a win for Gnome. It's a much lower cooldown. Rapio's made it back. Almost a big play from Watson, but a great... So honestly, Headhunter got a little bit lucky there. That was just shy of killing him. Great mez, though, and a good job on the rest of his team to not break it, because when you panic in those situations, sometimes you will accidentally break the mez.
You talk about panic there. Well, Elexum on the Zeus, you saw the gank onto Rapio, and he detonated very early, only 1 stack.
Yeah.
Rapio was still inside the ultimate as well, could have got another stack off, and 1 more stack would have confirmed the kill onto Rapio for sure there. In the end, he manages to escape because of it. Elexum's got to be very careful about...
Atonement. He's in trouble here, the ultimate, and he's going to be chased down by Proxy. Fafnir jumps forward, and Atonement stays alive, and I think that's a little bit on Awe and Elexum for not immediately noticing that Proxy was going for that kill.
Well, we talked about the junglers in this set, and it's very important for the whole day. All the junglers are going to make an impact today, and the big forefront. And Proxy so far, they're not respecting him right now, and every time he ults, people are dying immediately because they're just not expecting the damage.
I mean, Rival stomped game 1, and I think after those first couple kills, they had that same thing in mind, and Elexum on this Isis is getting a lot more pressure than he did last game.
Well, Gold Fury call here. Headhunter's going to walk around as he's been done very early, but can they rotate in time? Headhunter's nice and relaxed here. He's not panicking too much, waiting, looking to poke out a little bit, and now with Gnome's rotation, they're looking to steal, but Retribution get it, and the fight is on.
Caged in 2. Headhunter finds 1. Rapio finds the other. They lose the Gold Fury, but they win the fight, and they can look for more in the sky.
He doesn't manage to pull him, gets the purification off him, though, still diving the tower. Gnome's going to tank it up. Draconic form initiated by Zenborne, and Watson comes crashing back for the protection.
He's just got to stay safe right right now. Those protections are going to help Retribution trying to defend this tier 1 tower, but I don't think they're going to last long enough. And it's still all of Rival pushing forward. They've got minions in tow. No way this tower stands here unless Retribution makes some massive play.
Well, not with that coerce going off too, but Watson doing what he can to bludgeon out the front line, but he's getting weakened down by Ice's Headhunter. Really focused on the tower, but there's the ult back onto Headhunter, so he's got to disengage. The tower will stand.
Somehow, I don't know how Retribution managed to hold that. Rival, though, it seemed they were more focused on trying to get poke out than take out the tower. Strong hold, though, and because of that, I think Retribution come out at least a little bit on top with that Gold Fury. They only lose 2 members. They managed to hold their tower, and they actually are trying to siege their own tower as well, and Elexum can't stop this.
This is a great chance for him to do it, especially with Hoyi there and the Zeus at range. Going to be able to continue poking it down, and they will get the first tower of the game. Retribution have evened things completely.
I mean, I almost thought this was going to be the same scenario, right? Where Atonement and Rapio were just going to snowball this team into victory within the first 15 minutes, but Retribution, really good job. And I got to give full credit here to Proxy and Watson. They're really the two driving it. Watson's rotation specifically, he's always ahead of Gnome, and then Proxy, he's finding these targets isolated. He's been picking off Atonement for the most part. That's really been the player he's set his eyes on. And if the Isis is down, if she's killed before the Odin cage comes out, it is such a good team fight for them to take.
Well, normally, most teams will look at the situation and be like, okay, what do we need to change things here in how this is going? And Rival, well, instead of looking for more damage, they've actually gone for more survivability here. 2 winged blades being picked up by both the jungler and the mid laner of Rival to try and stop the storm that Nemesis is creating.
I think you have to at this point. It's not only Nemesis, too, the Hoyi Suns, if you're marked inside, as well as Chain Lightning, which, with how grouped up these teams are in the fights, that Chain Lightning is going to proc onto multiple
There's pressure
targets.
on the left-hand side here. They're looking to try and pick up Jeron underneath, and Rapio is immediately pinged out by Jeron there on the rotation, but 2 members in the jungle looking for a rotation, and guess what? They're going to find Elexum, and Elexum doesn't know it. Rapio, hello, friend. Well, he's going to force the purification, feather step on the mark, and that is a net win.
For serious. I mean, 90 seconds, 90-second cooldown there for Rapio's ult. It's 160 seconds for those purifications. Rival are guaranteed to be looking to pick up Elexum on the next fight.
Well, over to the right side we go, and Gnome is here being pressured by Watson, but Atonement's rotation is going to put a little poke onto that solo laner who is so far ahead right now.
And Watson, you can just see him anytime those buff spawns, he's just peeking into the jungle, just like, hey guys, what you got going on here? You got a buff I can take? Got a blue? You got a speed? I'm just, oh, there's 3 here. Okay, I'm just going to back off. But at the very least, he's forcing those rotations to that right side.
Now, the tower being weakened in the mid lane here as well for Retribution, and Rival's tower actually being down here. This map's about to open up drastically because the tower defense line is just going to be shifted backwards a little bit more.
And the Gold Fury spawning soon as well. It's going to be very important for these mid laners specifically to position themselves well. Elexum isolated by himself.
Trouble. He's got no purification. Remember that, boys and girls at home. Circle protection detonates, and in comes Gnome. Zeus is dead. Apollo was at the back just in case, but Watson and Proxy are here.
It's the 2 that have been leading Retribution forward here. Proxy in the middle of 4. The shield's going to keep him alive, but only for a short while, so he's got to back out. Takes too much damage.
I like that.
And Rival come out with the pick.
I like that because I said Watson and Proxy, because I was like, Watson's got to be over here in a second, and he was actually coming back from base. That was just well executed from Rival to realize Watson had based, and they could make that play.
And Gnome, once again, catching, they targeted out the Zeus. Once again, he got a little bit split up from his support as he was rotating into that mid lane. Gnome catches him right at the edge of his tower. He was very close to making that out for free, but it doesn't happen. And Gnome's cage has actually been pretty integral into the kills that Rival have secured.
Well, that's the one issue I can see from Rival here, is they're not managing to 100-0 as clean as they want. People are getting out with low health, and then they have to rely on Gnome to kind of clean that up for them to an extent and find those picks at the end and be able to tank the towers.
Well, the big thing is that they've been targeting out the Zeus, but he's built into a breastplate because he knows that he is the main focus. So if he can survive just long enough for Watson and Proxy to make those rotations, that's all he really needs to do.
Talking about rotations, big group up on the left-hand side here. Gold Fury's about to spawn too, and Retribution eyeing it up as well, getting ward control down for themselves. As we check in with the solo lane a second ago, Watson has finished the Frostbound Hammer here as well, but we've got a gang potentially on left.
And Rapio going to dash in here. The jump was already used by Jeron very early on, and Rapio, his ultimate, was it burned? No, it was still up. So I think that was just a good heads-up play by Jeron, noticing the rotation.
Well, now they're trying to rotate in themselves here, Retribution. No stun available for all there as Watson steals away the blue buff on the right-hand side. Gnome forced back to base there, so smaller advantages again for the solo lane. It was still left-hand side Retribution feeling confident.
And Proxy just pushing forward. He's trying to gain control of this. Really what Retribution are looking for is a pick in the jungle. They mostly wanted it onto Elexum if they could prefer, or excuse me, not Elexum, Atonement, excuse me, the Isis. Because with Isis down, they have a really good Gold Fury secure with the Zeus ultimate as well as the Bacchus Intoxicate. It would be hard for Rival to try and contest it otherwise.
Oh, the two people were back in then, and I'm not sure if Rapio saw that back, because if they did, I think they did. You know, they're trying to pull this, knowing that Nemesis just went back to base, and 4v5 is the situation.
They need to be careful. All of Retribution have their ultimates. The Zeus is waiting. Good positioning from him. The Isis ultimate is online, so it should be able to secure it. But in comes Awe.
Great flop as well. The Zeus ult and the Sun's rained down. Gold Fury goes to Rival, but will the team fight?
Atonement, he's going to be the first to fall. Gnome in the back line trying to cage off members, but it doesn't matter. He jumps over the corner. Meanwhile, Watson just swinging away on Rival's hard carries. They get the Gold Fury. They lose one. They might lose two here. It's going to be fine as long as they can hold their tier 2 tower.
But look, they've all had to go back to base, and 5 members of Retribution, very, very healthy at this stage, able to siege down mid. All they need is Awe to tank it for a few shots. They can get this tower hit unless...
Whoa, Headhunter? Into 3, the double belts 2! The stacks might be enough. The detonate comes out. Headhunter barely manages to walk away with a little bit of health. Tier 2 going to be sieged successfully here by Retribution, and they should be able to finally take the gold lead off of this. Definitely. It's ever so slight, but 1k to them.
But let's check out the grass, because you'll see the swing of that Gold Fury goes the way of Rival, but answered back with kills after kills and a tier 2 tower. Now they strip the whole jungle as well.
A lot of this is based around that. It was just a bad fight to take, right? You have the Rival was too concerned about having the Gold Fury secure because they had the Isis ult. They did have the guaranteed pop. They had that massive burst of damage. There's no Wrath in the game. It was going to be free. But all 3 members were grouped up. You saw the flop from all. Lightning Storm comes out on top. Watson pushes forward. Proxy strips half of someone's health. And then there's just too much AoE for them to really force these objectives without picking someone off first.
I really think the biggest issue for Rival there was the call to disengage was just too late. They could have got Gold Fury and got out and maybe lost 1. Instead, they decided to try and fight that a little bit longer than they should have, and then lost 2, which it resulted in a tier 2 as well.
This isn't they did get Gold Fury though, so it is.
They did.
Overall, it's not too bad for them. They lost their tier 2, so Elexum, or excuse me, Atonement's going to have a little bit of pressure in his lane. He needs to be a little bit more aware of what's going on. I expect a lot of wards deep into Rival's own jungle.
Especially when you look at the map coverage that Retribution has now with those towers being down. But they're looking at ganking Jeron on the left. Again, you can see Rapio on this Awlixi has been over here consistently the whole game.
I mean, he's 4-1-6. He's who Rival has got ahead. The issue is he's probably not as far ahead as he wants to be. Obviously, Zeus is very low, right? Level 13. He hasn't been able to get too much farm, so he is going to be able to target out on him. But he's got Dynasty Plate Helm and excuse me, Breastplate of Valor online. He's going to be incredibly tanky. And then if he commits to the Zeus and doesn't get the kill, you know Watson's going to be there. He's level 19. Proxy also ahead of Rapio in the jungle.
Well, for the time being, it would be a bit of farm up here. Maybe Retribution will look for a little bit more pressure and a little bit more poke. And talking about poke, Watson applying that to Gnome now, and you can see Proxy slowly rotating into the jungle to stop the option of somebody rotating that Frostbound Hammer, paying off with dividends.
Oh, but they can't chase on. Watson has the ult. There's the stun. Bludgeon not up, not even needed. Rapio's rotated in, but he's getting pressured off, and 4 members of Retribution are going to be grouped up. They have a couple options here. Could be the tier 2 tower siege. Could even be a Gold Fury, or excuse me, Fire Giant.
That was a crisp engagement from Retribution there. You just saw over and over Watson just sieging away, hitting them up a little bit, and then once he saw that you could see the rotation coming out from Proxy and he was going to make it there in time, they committed, found the kill, and now they're onto the Fire Giant.
Rival doesn't want to give this up. Elexum actually forced to use his Purification there. Fire Giant very low. Zenborne, he's going to ult, and all of it comes in. Retribution get the Fire Giant, but Rival are trying to take the fight.
And they're trying to get out right now, Retribution. They're all being chased down at different angles. Elexum's one hit from death, but a good flop from Awe will try and help him. Not good enough, though. And now Watson goes back in. He wants the wing chicken dinner.
Oh, it's setting up for the jump right now, trying to line up Atonement, who's still running away. Watson's chasing, but he's been poked out too much. Overall, there's only going to be one that falls. Still 4 members on Retribution with the Fire Giant in hand. A massive win.
Complete win for Retribution there, and what a swing and change in style from Game 1 to Game 2. Game 1, honestly, I know we didn't get to broadcast it here, but it was complete domination from Rival and Retribution. Well, they managed to answer back here.
And it's through Watson and Proxy. I know we've said their names so much, but you look at the rest. All right now, 0-4-6. He's had a lot of good setups, though. I don't think that scoreline really reflects how much he's done in this game. Looking at the Zeus, 0-6-6 as well. But look at the damage. He's second with that build right now, which is very tanky. Even though he's died, Rival have had to invest so much into killing him that it's allowed Retribution to clean up everyone else.
Well, we just need to see Jeron start to spike a little bit on this Ho-Yin now. He's got 2 kills to his name already, and feeding him a couple more heading into the later stages of the game now. Very important if they can. But the most priority thing for them now is just strip down these towers.
And the tier 1's going to fall uncontested. There is the Gold Fury spawning soon, but Rival seems like they want to mount a defense. This is still a Fire Giant team that they have to worry about. I think Retribution are going to wait until their Zeus can rotate in, also strip away the red buff. Retribution just playing this very intelligently right now.
It's smart because the gold lead is relatively even between the two teams.
It's not big.
Nobody's level, actually it's only 1 or 2 players level 20, so the experience is one thing for Retribution, but the gold lead's not enough.
The Fire Giant does help into baiting fights specifically, but you can't overcommit. You can't just go in without thinking.
I don't think this is really a bait from Retribution. They're just going to force down the Gold Fury, and Rival happy to give this up as long as they can hold on to those tier 2 towers, but the Fire Giant buff hits on for a few more minutes.
I like what Rival are doing, though. You actually see the rotation from the Apollo to the right-hand side. They're going to send Headhunter over to split push. This should be at least a tier 1 tower here, but that means Rival will have to concede this tier 2. They cannot try and protect it 4v5.
Well, they can try and slow them down a little bit with Odin Ring and Isis ult, but at the end of the day, they're just going to have to back away, especially when Watson's going to charge into your face like that, not with a care in the world.
And there's the traded out towers here. The question is, does Retribution continuously want to push this?
Well, this is the call now. Headhunter's got a decision to make. Do I get back to base now? Do I ult there? Because they want the Phoenix. They can still see Headhunter's on the right-hand side.
He's got a back. I mean, he's got a back or ult over.
The commitment's already gone.
Now.
There's the ring down, and the Draconic Form comes out too. The dots are good, and actually, this is going well for Rival, but not well enough.
I mean, it was the cage. Elexum's taken out 1, but he's immediately answered back by Zenborne. Rapio in the middle of 4. I don't know what he's trying to do. And overall, Retribution are going to win the fight. They're going to lose their tier 2, but a Phoenix for return, that's so much worth.
Is Headhunter backing right now? No, he needs to stay. He realizes the disengage, and the call came through just in time. Otherwise, Headhunter could have made a really bad mistake there. Don't even get in the tier 2 and backing instead.
That fight overall, we saw Rival do the combo that they've been looking for, the Odin cage into the Ice Assault, but right now Retribution are just a little bit too healthy, and the primary targets in that cage were Watson and Awe, who are not the easiest to take down, and once again, they dump so much into Elexum. He's going to have his 7th death of the game, but it doesn't matter. He's still getting out all the damage he needs in team fights.
I think the big key here is Watson got off to a good start this time around. That battle in the solo lane was so key throughout the whole game. In game 1, it's because of Gnome getting ahead that we saw the lead happen. This game, Watson got ahead, and Watson's running with it.
4-0-5. He's 1 item off of full build. He has just been out-rotating everyone in this game, and he's been a part of almost all of Retribution's kills. 90% kill participation, 100% from Proxy, though.
Yeah.
Running around this map, setting up for his team, and making sure to keep everyone safe.
With one hand.
With one hand.
Let's just remember that. If Proxy wins this tournament, that's going to go down in history.
The one-handed win.
The one-handed German.
I mean... That's what we're going to say, the one-handed German.
That's what we'll call it.
That's all. That's the best you got?
Yeah.
I expect you to come up with...
I could have come up with a lot of things about Germans, but I'm too polite to do that nowadays.
Well, we are on cast, so you're not allowed...
I know, right?
You get in trouble if you said some other things, but it's
Proxy,
okay.
though.
25 minutes in, and Rival, they're on their back foot, despite having the kill lead.
Despite having... I mean, the kills don't... This is one of the times when kills don't mean squat.
I mean, it's been objective play from Retribution. The Gold Fury baits, the Fire Giant, as well as just sieging up these towers.
They want Jeron, but Jeron's going to take him on a merry goose chase, because the longer he can keep them busy, the more time his team could look to push. But they're extending so far over for this, it looks like Retribution wanted to come and help him out, and I don't think that was the right call, boys.
This is really bad from Retribution, but they still might be able to catch someone. The back comes out from Headhunter. Rapio's going to already use his Feather Step, and he's on to Suku. The slow is good, but I think that was a Winged Blade proc, and he's going to be safe. Great play from Rival. Not only do they get the pick, but they bait Retribution to waste their Fire Giant.
Well, I mean, the Fire Giant was down then, but what they could have done is stripped away the jungle again, looked at the speed buff maybe. They could have tried to take an engagement there, knowing 2 members were against 1 on that side of the map. They could have even pressured the tier 2 town on the right-hand side. Instead, they decided to try and help out the Hunter, which was dead already.
I mean, they're still in a good position. You can see them just hovering around Fire Giant right now. Ward's in favor of Rival, though. They want to make sure to have this vision. And with Fire Giant off now, 3K at 26 minutes, it's nothing. It's really not that big.
I mean, it feels like Rival's like seen Oprah today or something. You get a wing blade, you get a wing blade, you get a wing blade. Fafnir, you get a wing blade too. Everybody get a wing blade.
That was actually the exact number of people.
Yeah,
you planned it out. That was perfect. That was really well done.
Thank you.
I mean, I love wing blades. I'm a little bit surprised that they only have 1 sprint though. I really had assumed that Headhunter would get a 2nd sprint, just because that way not everyone needs to invest into that wing blade.
Really
they can go for more stat-efficient items.
Very, very true. And you've invested in 4 wing blades, not really worthwhile. 2 sprints, on the other hand, definitely going to work out a little bit better. But Fire Giants respawned here, and Retribution, after getting Jeron back in the action one more time, starting to siege it up again. And Rival, happy for them to just take control of the area and looking to counter if need be.
I almost think that it might be worth them to just give up this Fire Giant.
That was an early Suns, and Zenborne's here, but can they contest? Spirit Ball for the win, maybe Signal Protection for the win. Rival get the Fire Giant, and the fight is on.
The Spirit Ball connects. Elexum trying to stay alive in his Sanctuary, but Rapio's already found him. Zenborne and the rest of Rival pushing forward. There's only Watson in the backline, but he can't do enough by himself.
And now Gnome still giving chase, forcing Proxy away. Watson surrounded. He might be a mountain man and take 5 to bring down, but you know what? Even he's got to run at some point.
Headhunter, he survived for so long, and that Isis ultimate from Atonement, catching the foot of the Fire Giant, knows he has the kill secure with all the damage stacked up, and then the dive in from Headhunter. Watson can't do enough damage by himself. All of Rival push forward, and now they're sieging up.
And what's the reason that happened, Adonis? Nobody peeled.
Nobody
zoned. Nobody zoned out the Fire Giant. They let them walk in like that, and that's what happens, boys. Good news is, though, even though we're going to get a Phoenix down in mid lane for Rival here by the looks of it, the left Phoenix did fall down as well in response because the Fire Minion waves were pushing.
I'm a little bit surprised that Rival didn't go to the left Phoenix. Instead, look at this. Gnome zoning off too. The Zeus ult, though, making it hard for Rival to secure this. They will get it eventually, and it's just going to be a back off from them.
Full credit to Gnome there. And this is what you do in Smite. Sometimes things go against you over and over again, but one turnaround play at the Fire Giant, and it all swings in your favor.
Their Titan is actually very low.
Winged
it's
blade,
at 50%.
Man. Winged blade.
And Proxy's trying to stop their backs. He's not going to be able to stop everyone, but that's actually a fair amount of damage. It's about 30%, I think, before it's going to get stopped, which means all Retribution need to do is they could even take a 5-on-5 fight on that Titan, and they might be able to win just because of that.
It's times like this where you're looking at Jeron, like, Jeron, why couldn't you be on Apollo right now? Like, you just swing around the back ult into with all those fire minions and we end. Yeah.
That's the Zap Man backdoor. He coined that it was the launch tournament, I think. He won with a backdoor.
For EU, these guys have gone at it all season long. It's 6-4 in favor of, I believe, Retribution.
I mean, Retribution has had this matchup. It's now changed to 6-5 with Rival winning that first matchup. This is the 12th time they've played an official competition.
And I can almost see it like going either way again here. Although, with those 2 Phoenixes down and the Fire Giant buff on them, Rival just need to like weather the storm here. I think they can just push down left, take these towers against the Fire Minions. By that point, the Fire Minions will still be coming, but that Fire Giant should have despawned.
I mean, we're 30 minutes in, and the gold is dead even. Most players are starting to reach level 20 as well. I think every player in this game right now is very confident that they're going to come up with the win. Both of them have really good team fights, and it's going to be probably around these mid laners, right? Whoever's mid laner dies first, I think, loses the fight.
And the question is, do you take the fight as Retribution of the tier 2, or do you do it at the Phoenix?
Seems like it's going to be the
Phoenix. Sorry,
All's trying to make the decision, but they're letting their tier 2 get chipped away, and it will be the Phoenix clearly here. They do have to worry about fire minions though. One wave in the mid, the right hand side is a little bit pushed up. That's going to buy them maybe 20 seconds.
Well, this just requires patience from Rival now to let those minions slowly leak into the base first of all, and it shows. They realize they can just wait for somebody to have to defend, and then they can look to commit.
They've got over a minute of Fire Giant. There is no reason to force this right now. Look for Gnome to cage in the members you want. You want 2 people in specifically, Watson and Elexum. So the main reason for Watson, even though he can get out, is you want him to be forced to burn his ult to get out.
There's the coerce, and there's the ring going down onto 2, but Watson dives in the back with Awe as well. The Intoxicate was good, but the damage from Atonement is too much. Atonement is surrounded by 3, but getting Peel help.
It's helpful as well. He's still getting chased by Watson, but it's 3v1 right now. Rapio has already taken out Awe in the back line, focusing on one more. He will fall eventually to prOxy.
They're gonna win.
And Jeron actually makes it out, but the Titan, it's getting shredded by the fire minions. prOxy still here, 1v3, actually might be able to turn this around, but his Phoenix does fall.
Now, they're not going to be able to end now. I mean, they could do because they've got fire minions in every lane, but Rival want to play this very, very safe.
Risky.
The Fire Giant just ran out. They get the 3rd Phoenix, and everything's good for Rival here.
Yeah, I mean, Rival are going to take this overall, but the main issue was Watson in the backline, once again, just doing so much work. He doesn't die, but he distracts the carries long enough and makes it so Atonement feels very uncomfortable.
Really interesting situation between these two teams now. Retribution got off to a great start. Well, actually, no, online. Rival got off to a good start. Yes. Retribution answered back in spades. Then they get the Fire Giant buff, and with that, they go on a rampage. But that second Fire Giant could have potentially cost them the game here.
It was the steal. I mean, it was a fantastic steal from Rival. They played it perfectly. That's what's... When there's no Wrath in the game, Isis becomes the best objective god in the game, and no one peeled. You mentioned it. No one peeled. They just let Atonement walk up, drop his ultimate uncontested, and he's not tanky at all. All he has is the Winged Blade and the Dynasty Blade helm. It helps a little bit, but there's no reason he should be able to walk that far into the pit.
What is Retribution doing here?
They're going for the win.
Are they going for the win?
Look at this, though. Look at this, though.
Gnome.
They've all walked over
Gnome
a ward.
is already there waiting for them. Like you said, there's a ward there, and Gnome shows his face, and the Panda in lane goes, come at me, boys. If you want this Phoenix, you got to go through me. We'll get a Fire Giant, and we're in the advantage again.
Look at this. Only one player backs, and all of Rival know this, so they're gonna try and siege down these 2 weakened Phoenixes right now. The issue is that everyone on Retribution has been able to back outside of prOxy, who's doing mid camps for some reason at level 20, and he's actually gonna get caught in the jungle doing these mids.
Good shield though to avoid that damage from the Feather Step, but Rapio still giving chase here, getting some good poke off, but the problem is it's a 2v2 now as Hunter and Watson from the solo have turned up and prOxy's dead.
Oh, why are you doing mid camps? prOxy, we're 33 minutes into the game. Watson gets his ult off, stuns 4, but look at Gnome. He's caged in all of the carries of Retribution. Watson is finally going to fall, and Rival just walk away with 2 free picks.
This game could potentially was in the back for Retribution here, but one Fire Giant, one mistake, and it's all turned on its head. Rival are going. I can guarantee you now, they're gonna 2-0 against Retribution.
There's nothing for Elexum and Jeron to do. All 5 members filing into the Titan. It's gonna fall. It was a back and forth match, and then prOxyQQ did mid camps at 33 minutes and was picked off.
I mean, I don't even think that was the biggest part of that.
That wasn't. I mean, that's. I think that was a very close game. Like, Rival obviously had the advantage heading into that last fight, but the second you get caught at mid camps at 33 minutes, and then Watson comes in, dies as well, trying to save you, that is a critical mistake.
Realistically, when I look back at that, they made the play looking for the Phoenix. They wanted to backdoor and go for the win. They didn't want to contest the Fire Giant. I understand that one. They went for the win. Gnome recognized it. They warded it. They knew it was there, and prOxy's like, I'm just going to do mids because we lost Fire Giant, we can't get the Phoenix, we can't in the game, now we're going to go back and defend.
But you have 2 options there, one, right? First, you commit to the call no matter what, because you know if you assume that most of the members are still, you either just all in there and go in and you try and basically make a play, or you all back in unison. 3 players backed, and then prOxy was still kind of just hanging around. Unfortunate for him and Retribution, but it was a very close game overall.
Well, there you can see on your screen the points. 3 points to Rival as they did 2-0 Retribution there. And that's the EU versus EU matchup done. Obviously, Retribution and Rival both have to play the NA teams.
Next up, though, we do have the NA matchup, Most Wanted versus Eager. And this one, despite Game 1 being very snowball, Game 2 was very close. And it could have gone either way. I almost think we're going to have very similar to the Epsilon Invitational, where these teams are going to have a lot of trade-out matches. Yeah. A lot of splits today is my expectation.
Will it be a lot of splits? That's the big question, because that one was almost a split.
It should have been.
It should have been a split.
I don't know. It was close. I mean, Retribution, their main thing seemed to be objective defense, right? I think when they went for the objectives, it was always the right call. but how they played them was a little bit awkward. No one was really defending, and I think this is that stolen FG.
And this is actually from Rapio's perspective after they got the FG here. This is just getting torn down because you were all focused on getting the FG, and then the whole team comes in, collapse, and you get scattered. You get scattered, and you run for your life.
Too. Rapio actually went for a very interesting build. We didn't get to touch on it. He had the Winged Blade for the anti-Nemesis. He had Jotun's Wrath first, Winged Blade, then into Executioner, I believe, and then I think he finished off with Stonecutting Sword. I could be wrong about that one, but a very hybrid build where he had the utility of Winged Blade, the CDR of the Jotuns, and then an attack speed of an Executioner.
The Winged Blade as well. 4 Winged Blades involved in that game.
I mean, you're against a Nemesis. I'm really surprised that more teams don't run stuff like that. I think they could have gone 3 Winged Blades and a second sprint, but I mean, overall, it was still really. I love that. I love that anti-build because they essentially made Proxy's ult useless with that playstyle.
Very, very true, and a very good performance from Rival now. Obviously, Zenborne, he came out and was talking this morning to me. He said 2-0 against Retribution, 1-1 most wanted, 2-0 against Eager. Everyone underestimates Eager. I don't know why.
But that's all the time. Every time Eager comes in as an undercard and they finish top 2.
Talking about Zenborne, he had a very good performance that last game on the Fafnir. But it's a good use, as you expect. He's got a lot of CC chains thanks to that Draconic and the refresh of his abilities.
And look at that, just the knowledge that he's going to be able to clean up that kill, and his target was this Zeus every time. He jumps on him, makes it as uncomfortable as possible, and he's just kind of, even just being a wide character model in the Dragon form makes it hard for Retribution to dive into his backline because he's taking up so much space in lane.
Well, we're going to go over to an interview now with Anatoly, the star of Rock-a-Rolly, and he's got an interview with us with one of the members of Rival.
Thank you, Hinderman. Joined with me is Zenborne winning against the #1 European team 2-0. Very convincing game. Talk to me about this land coming overseas. How are you feeling?
I mean, we're feeling pretty confident, to be honest. It's not my first land, so I kind of try to prepare the guys for this land because it's their first land, but I'm really proud of them. We had the first game and they weren't really nervous, to be honest. So I was really proud of them, and they did a really good job. So that was good.
Unfortunately, a few technical difficulties after game #1. It was a very convincing game from what I've seen behind. Tell me about your team's mentality and your own mentality with that long wait time between game #1 and 2.
I mean, we were a bit upset about this, these technical issues, but we couldn't do anything. So we just kept saying to ourselves that we have to keep going. We have to have the mindset that we had for game 1, and we managed to do it, and we won the second game. So yeah.
So about that second game specifically, was there ever a point that you were worried, or your team, about the first lead that Retribution had on you guys? And if not, what were your plans on coming back? You did a good job.
Yeah, well, we always have a plan. If things go wrong, we always okay guys, what went wrong? We think about it, what could we do better? And we set up our plan again. We want to do this different in team fights, and it worked out. That's it.
Well, great job by you guys. Most Wanted is going to be your next opponent, the #1 team coming out of North America. Is there any specific game plan that you have, or were you more prepared for the European side?
No, we're prepared for both regions, and we have some pretty interesting stuff for them. So, yep.
All right, that's going to be it for us, guys. Thank you so much, and we're going to be seeing the North American side of things. Most Wanted against Eager next.
I was wrong.